Joy.com, the Republican candidate for governor.
Have sexual relations
and I realized that this is something he isn't
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, good morning, Cleveland. Welcome to another edition of Backfire with myself, Steve Doball Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey.
And let's not forget Daniel Brantley.
Chief Engineer, Daniel Brantley. All right, I've got something new for you guys this morning.
What's that?
I've been gone all week. So
It has been awfully quiet around here. We wondered what the reason was.
So I thought I'd just ask y'all what's new in the news this morning and see what happens, what comes up first.
John threw his arms up.
What was you reading? You're reading something there in the Times this morning. Something going on.
Locally, it appeared that former Sheriff Dan Gilley, who has been working to oversee maintenance issues at the Bradley County Justice Center, has submitted his resignation and said that he doesn't think they're going to pass their inspection there, that there's just too many maintenance needs that aren't addressed.
I saw you reading that. There's sinks that don't have hot and cold running water and some of these type of things.
Yeah, lots of lights out, showers that don't work, sinks that are out.
How does the place get in that bad a shape? It's owned by government.
Well, it's the same way it happens at people's homes and other things. You have to budget for future maintenance as much as you budget for current maintenance, and that's an issue.
Well, let me qualify this a little bit. One of the problems with some of these showers and things that are bad is because they weren't put in correctly to begin with. So at the original construction, to be perfectly honest, from what I understand, a lot of those fixtures were actually encased in concrete, which voids the warranty. So not only was it not put in correctly, but it was put in such a way that we had no warranty either.
I don't know how many years ago that was built or who built it, but it looks like that they would take a better, they could do something to last.
Look, I can tell you that my wife as a county commissioner brought up the issue of the showers, 6 or 8 years ago, and said these are put in incorrectly, voids the warranty, they don't hold up this way, and from what I understand, over at the new facility, they're installing them exactly the same way. That's the problem with government. And one of the things Franklin, gets mad at me about sometimes, and I've had other people in the community, I'll bring things up and I'll say, who did this? And why did they let it happen? And people go, well, you're just being mean. Why, it's over and done with. Why is it important who was at fault? Well, it's important because if you don't recognize the mistake that you made, if there's never a consequence for making a mistake, then you continue to make that mistake or new mistakes over and over and over again. And again, I fall back on smaller government. The problem here is when you're spending other people's money, you don't really care as much.
Well, it seems to me like if we're building something, we could at least get it built correctly.
If you were building it for your house, you would.
The other side
you know what?
of that,
if I was a commissioner,
if your primary goal is to be able to say we balance the budget and nothing else, then it's quite possible that there are going to be areas that you cut back when you really shouldn't have cut back.
Well, Franklin, that's a matter of priorities. And what kills me, the part you're not talking about, Franklin, for example, the beautiful fine arts building over at Bradley High School. It is a beautiful building. I have absolutely nothing against that fine arts building. But when they built that fine arts building, Lake Forest was walking through mud and slush to get to class, those kids over there. That was a higher priority. But what'd we do? We spent $5 million on a brand new building over there that if anybody criticized, oh my gosh, you hate kids, you're against Bradley High School, and that wasn't the case. But the point was, we had a higher priority. So this idea that Franklin, as a usual liberal, will float, oh, it's about money and we don't spend enough. No, we don't prioritize our spending. That's our problem.
Well, maintenance is an ongoing issue.
Maintenance is a priority. Mm-hmm. That's the point. Don't spend money on stuff you want when you have money that you need to be spent.
In what year would that actually be the case, John?
When, Franklin?
When we just have an overflow of money.
Well, Franklin, I've said this over and over again on this show. According to Tennessee state law, it is not allowed to ever cut education funding. So that's actually one of our problems. Anytime there's this big push that, for example, the commission, you're cutting education funding. No, they never cut education funding because they're not legally allowed to. What happens is if they ask for a 10% increase and the commission only gives them a 5% increase, they claim that's a cut. Same thing on the federal level with the Democrats. You're slashing the budget. We never slash the budget. It goes up every year. So our problem, Franklin, is not that we don't have enough money. It's that we don't spend enough time making priorities and actually making hard choices. It's always easy to spend money on something everybody wants.
Do you believe in low bids?
Yes and no. I do think on low bids, you have to look at the bid and understand what they're bidding. But again, the problem here is, Steve, if you were doing it on your house, if you were building a house, you would take the lowest bid and then you'd try to figure out, now, is this guy shorting me something? In government, if there's never any accountability, they don't care. Because guess what? If something goes bad, next year they can come ask for a tax increase and say, hey, this went bad, we need some more money.
Okay. All right, John, let's assume everything you said is true, without question. Now we got a problem.
That would be the smart move.
Well, I know it would be a self-confirming.
Help myself.
Let's assume.
So taking your vast smarts and putting them to work here, what exactly would you do?
About what?
The problem that we just identified and discussed.
Well, the problem with the shower over there is it's an expensive fix. Somebody made a mistake in the past.
So it's still got to be addressed.
Yes.
What would you suggest they do?
Well, in the showers, you have to hammer all that stuff out, tear every bit of it out, and redo it. And the problem with that is it's a big expense. And that's, again, a perfect example of saving a little money on the front end, just like you were talking about the low bid, but being foolish about it in the long run. So everything is a balance. Everything is about reasonableness. I want government to be small, but there are times when government wastes money by not fixing something on the front end or not doing it right on the front end. Again, I still fall back to one of the reasons that happens is people use a different set of rules and judgment when they're spending someone else's money than they would when they were spending their own.
That's true, but it's also true that the facilities 10 to 12, 13 years old now.
This has been bad from the get-go.
So the question is, it doesn't seem to me to be very helpful to spend a lot of time railing about a decision that was made 13 years ago.
You're right. If that would be true, Franklin, if we weren't building the workhouse and if, from what I understand, making exactly the same installation mistakes in the workhouse. That's my point. I'm not railing about the past because it changes anything. I'm saying you have to understand the mistake you made in the past so you don't repeat it.
All right.
We're
so
repeating
again,
it.
My question is, what is it you think they should do?
Make it the workhouse.
Well, one, if you install a system, you have to follow the installation guidelines so that you have a warranty on the system.
Well,
that would be a minimum.
Somebody's obviously designed that system architecturally, and then somebody bid on it from a design. So the architect would be the one that would be at fault. They gave them the plans.
I don't know.
I mean, they had to have a set of architects.
That may be, but it's highly unlikely you have a warranty that's 13 years old.
No,
that's not the point. The point is, Franklin, the reason it voided the warranty is because the company knew if you installed it that way, it wouldn't hold up. That's why it voided the warranty.
You're talking about the plumbing.
Yes, the plumbing won't hold up if you encase it in concrete. And that it expressly says don't do that. And that's a problem that's been going back probably more than a decade.
Well, somebody needs to look into how we're getting these things designed in the future. The design is where it's coming from. It's got to be coming from the design.
Well, I will say this, and Franklin should actually appreciate a conservative small government person saying this. One of the problems is you need a construction manager. You need a construction manager on the job that is not tied into the company doing the construction. and it's not
Well, that's
someone
an
who's doing
inspector.
it on the
That's an
side.
inspector.
Well, what do you think about Bradley County government having a full-time paid person
I'm
whose
against it. I'd
whose
rather
job
contract it
is-
out per job and hire them.
then you'll get hit or miss per job, right? Sometimes you'll get it right, sometimes you
Franklin,
won't.
the problem for me with hiring someone to do it is it's another government employee who doesn't really have to answer to anybody.
Well, it'd be
That's the
another
problem.
government employee whose job is to try and save money and make sure things are done correctly.
Then you get into
But what
a lot of
happens if he
bureaucracy.
makes a mistake, Franklin?
You get into
Well,
much
he gets
bureaucracy.
fired.
No, he doesn't
presumably.
get fired. That's the problem in
Well,
government.
let me stop you a minute. Now then, we have fees that you have to pay to build things with them because we have more inspectors already doing inspections.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've got plenty of inspectors.
I'm not talking.
We're just.
about
I'm thinking about.
I'm talking about somebody who's there on site regularly, not who comes out at various stages of a project and looks at it and says, okay.
Well, let me tell you one of the things they'll say, Franklin. For example, the new school we're building, they'll say, well, we have someone overseeing. It's the principal. And look, I think the principal has every motivation to do a good job. But
Doesn't
guess
mean
what?
he has
He's
the
not,
qualifications,
he's not a builder.
I know,
And that's asking too much.
well, I know the city system had a guy that was over the construction.
We rarely have people that are independent. You should hire a completely separate person. For example, when the city did it, it was someone tied in from the construction company.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they find that the construction company's doing something wrong, where's their loyalty lie?
Here's what I think is the solution to it all. When you get your set of architectural plans back from an architect, hire another architect to go over those plans and find fault or
Well, the
correct
first thing you ought to
things that
do,
he
which
sees
we didn't
wrong.
used to do, we have now pushed this through somewhat. You know, before in the school system, for example, Community Tectonics got every job, county and city, for years. And we spent millions of dollars with them. Well, now they do at least get 2 or 3 companies to put competing designs in. And that way you can actually look and say, oh, look, I hadn't thought about this. You know, this company had a better idea.
All right, moving on. Jeff Yarber, Commissioner Yarber, is proposing that we go to a 9-member commission, county commission,
Which he's proposed before.
versus a 14-member.
Yep.
Now, what is the good and the bad of that?
Well, one, it saves you money on the surface.
Okay. You'd have 9 commissioners instead of 14.
What's the cost for a commissioner now?
They get per meeting, and then they get health benefits as well.
I would think the health benefits are a greater
It may be.
cost than
I mean, they don't get paid
very
they don't
much.
get
Let's
paid
be
very
honest.
much. That's not the point.
Yeah.
But it would save you money. I may be wrong, but as I remember it, when this was proposed several years ago, it was over $300,000 savings.
Well, I mean, it's a hard way to get anything passed with 14 people, is it not?
Well, here's another thing. There's two options on this.
Well, let me finish. There's 2 people voting in some of these districts, okay?
There's 2 in every district.
No, not in every district.
Yes, there's 2 commissioners in every district.
Okay, all right. Go
There's
ahead.
7 districts, 2 in each
All right.
district.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, there's been 2 different concepts about this. One of them was to keep the 14 commissioners, but go to an A and a B commissioner. Now, they're against that, too. The reason they're against that is it's a whole different type of politics when you have the 2 top people win. For example, there have been a lot of cases in the very recent past where one commissioner was targeted. And so a bunch of people run because they think that one commissioner ought to be out.
Right.
Well, he ends up not getting beat, and they end up beating the other commissioner that they thought was a good commissioner.
Right.
So an A and a B seat would allow you to specifically run against one particular commissioner. Well, a lot of the current commissioners don't want to take that risk. They'd rather have that, as long as I'm in the top 2, I win.
I understand.
That's one problem with that idea. The 9, that's just to reduce the number, reduce the cost, and still have everybody represented.
Well, I think 9 can make better decisions than 14.
Possibly.
What's your opinion, Frank? Who knows?
Yeah, it depends. I guess it depends on who the 9 are, right? Honestly, I mean, we when we did the Charter Study Commission that looked over various forms of government for Cleveland. We looked at seven districts. We looked at 5 districts. We finally decided on a compromise where we had districts and then we had at-large seats to kind of give you a balance between serving individual districts and looking at the community as a whole. By and large, I still think that's a good idea.
Now, I didn't read that. Is Jeff's proposal that they redo the districts and have 9 districts? I would assume.
I think, yes. Well, yes.
Well, one problem with a vote like that on an issue like that is that would require commissioners to actually be self-sacrificing if they voted for it.
Mm-hmm. I like your idea of the A and B, so you could.
Well, we've talked about A and B.
So you can at least vote for.
You're voting for specific people rather than the top 2.
Yeah. Because I know of a couple of elections that got turned around because of that. So you're right. All right, John. Take it.
Take what?
Push it. Make it happen. Let's go.
Make that happen. Okay.
Well, we're going to refer to it as
A and B?
Yeah.
The A and B affair.
The Stanberry Plan, we'll call it.
Well, I saw.
I'm sorry, that's been out there a long time by a lot of other people.
Dan Rawls has another article in the Banner. Rawls says barking dog incident handled properly by all involved. Oh, oh, oh.
I must confess, I was out of town, so I don't know about the barking dog.
Well, I think it's all about this detective, or not a detective, but a county police officer who resigned because, first of all, it said he didn't handle a barking dog incident properly, but he turned it over to, he told the people they could call Commissioner Charlotte Peak to take care of it because she was on the, not on the county commission and on the dog commission over there or something. I don't know. Anyway, this policeman resigned, and I think this is one that Rawls kind of liked, and the guy's not happy working on the county police force, I think is what it is. So, anyway. So much for the dog incident. What do you think about Trump's newest lawsuit? Have you seen the newest lawsuit?
The ones where the Maryland and D.C. filed against him?
Yes. What's your opinion of that? You familiar with it?
Well, we really don't have a modern precedent for the issue there. It involves a part of the Constitution called the Emoluments Clause, and basically says if you're an elected official like a president or something, you can't receive financial benefits from foreign sources. And so the issue has to do with the amount of revenue being generated by foreign governments and so forth at various Trump properties. There's not really a modern precedent for a determination of that, so nobody really knows for sure.
Look, from what I understand, George Washington was one of the leading producers of cider and beer and things like that in the colonies at the time. At the time, if you treat him the way that a lot of these liberals want to treat Trump, you would have had to shut down George Washington's business. And Franklin's right. There is no real precedent for this because we've mostly elected people who had been government employees. And so you finally have elected someone who actually has done something and was doing something in the real world, and it's a new page for us. But I don't think you want to discourage regular citizens from running for office, which we already do too much based on just the sheer hell that they drag you through.
You know, these kind of frivolous lawsuits are just part of what is just grandstanding.
Well, it's not grandstanding. This is a blend in with this whole deep state concept. This is the entrenched machine of government basically trying to defend itself. And what they're doing is what they can't win at the ballot box, they're going to try to force through the judiciary.
Well, I find it very difficult to believe anybody on the Republican side of the aisle wouldn't have the same concerns were it Democrat in the same seat, in the same issue. As I said, we don't really have a modern precedent for it, but it's pretty clear that there have been a substantial uptick in some of these payments being made at some of these Trump facilities since he became president.
Of course. Well, first off, he rents rooms.
Yeah, and suddenly they're much more interested in renting from Trump properties than before.
Yeah, so what?
Well, so what? There's the Constitution.
Here's my problem, Franklin. I am much more concerned about previous presidents, let's say Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, who were worth little or nothing when they took office and are now multi-millionaires.
Al Gore.
That, to me, is a much bigger problem than someone who had already become a millionaire on his own.
Okay.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Okay. I'm not. I said nothing positive about anybody.
But you're missing
in the
my point, Franklin.
I simply
said about the Clintons being worth
hundreds
of millions of dollars.
And I think virtually every listener we have agrees with me that were the shoe on the other foot, you'd have a different answer.
Actually, I will tell you right now, were the shoe on the other foot, you wouldn't. I wouldn't say a word, because I think people who have earned their money, earned their place in the world, I don't think we ought to penalize them. This is nothing.
So you don't think they ought to have to do blind trust? They shouldn't have to do things like that.
I'm okay with a blind trust, but the problem with this kind of business entity is well, first off, I'm probably not that big a deal on a blind trust. For example, Rex Tillerson. Rex Tillerson put his apparently hundreds of millions of dollars worth of ExxonMobil stock in a blind trust. A blind trust doesn't magically wipe from his memory the fact that he owns hundreds of billions of dollars in the oil and gas industry.
Potentially he may not own them anymore, though, depending on what the person who's operating that trust
I'm
does.
personally not real big on that. I'm actually bigger on trusting people and on believing in people's common decency.
Well, let me ask you something. Who do you think's more guilty of doing something wrong, Trump or the Clintons?
I don't even know what that comparison's supposed to mean.
Of doing anything wrong as far as illegal, in a way to make money. In making money, who's done more wrong, the Clintons or Trump?
I think that
in making a living.
I think that would be a very difficult comparison to make, to be honest.
Well, the difference, though, Franklin, is that Trump, and I don't disagree, any kind of person in business, you have decisions to make, and you can make ethical or you can make unethical decisions. But the difference is, Franklin, that the Trump people were building something. They were building something on their own. They were actually taking risks. And he has had bankruptcies through that. The problem with the Clintons is they've never built anything. All of their hundreds of billions of dollars came off the backs of the taxpayer and came from their government connections and collusion deals. Okay. That's the bigger problem.
Okay. And that would lead us back to me for years and years and years on this show talking about how the amount of money flowing into our political system inevitably causes corruption. Well, I don't know why Donald Trump would be the answer.
Well, probably because the last two election cycles, the majority of the big money went to your party.
And the
Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
In the previous two before that, it was the opposite.
So actually, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
You all have outspent us almost every time. Even though you make all these claims, it's actually the big money Democrats that spend more money. You know, all this talk about the Koch brothers, no talk about Tom Steyer, who put, I think, $65 million into the Democratic coffers last cycle.
Who's this guy keeps trying to pay to have Trump brought down?
Well, Steyer is one of the main ones. And of course, the amazing thing, like a lot of the liberals donating big money, one of his big issues is in the environment. But of course, he's also gotten government money for the environmental issues.
So he's spending government money.
Well, look, Pruitt, the new EPA director, I heard this this last week, and it was really striking, and I'd be interested to know what Franklin thinks about this. He let all of these people, these advisors on the EPA advisor council go, and the liberals had a fit. Oh, this is horrible. He's let all these experts go. Well, guess what? 24 out of the 26 people on the EPA advisory board were all receiving grants from the EPA for their particular environmental issue. So here's the group of advisors deciding where EPA money spends, and 24 out of the 26 are getting millions and millions of dollars from the very EPA that they're on the board of.
You're exactly right, John. Exactly right. And the response to that is, A, get independent people in to look at it and serve in those roles, or B, hire people who are lifelong recipients of benefits from the very industries that they're going to regulate.
I think Trump's already decided this.
No, but you're missing the point. Everybody points out if you're an industry person, but these academics have just as big
What did I just say, John? You didn't listen.
I did.
I said you were right.
We don't put any
You're
of the
arguing with
industry people
yourself.
on. You all have blocked that for years.
No, that's exactly what's happening now.
I think
And
Trump.
the point's the same no matter which one of them it is. It's corrupt.
I think Trump made the right decision with the French summit.
Well, the problem is Obama made the wrong decision to get into it in the first place.
Well, that's right. But do you,
what you witnessed with that is the.
if you think anybody's going to die from it?
Nope.
No, what I think is that America is going to recede to the background.
You know what we're going to recede to the background of, Franklin? Paying the bill. That's the only thing we're receding to the background. We lead the country in development of safer, more protected environmental issues. We lead the world in that, and we always will.
No, we're not going to keep leading, John.
Franklin,
That's the
all
problem.
of the developments are ours.
All the big investments that are taking place right now, at this point, are taking place in China. We just took a step back and gave up some of our ability
We
to lead.
sell the technology to the Chinese. We develop the technology. They don't develop
John,
it. They buy it from us because we're the leader in that technology.
Okay, John. Whatever you say. At some point, I just have to shake my head because the things he says are so far out of reality and so
what
untrue.
restrictions were on China and India and Brazil in that treaty? What restrictions?
The same ones that would apply to us because
didn't apply
they're goals.
till 2030.
And guess what? Guess what? The Chinese had announced that they were actually going to meet their goal.
They didn't have a decent goal. That's the point. It was such a horrible treaty. They don't even have to meet a goal until 2030, Franklin. That's over 12 years off. Mm-hmm. And they're the leading producer of bad coal-burning plants in the world. And they had no restrictions.
Who's the leading carbon producer in the world, John?
We're the leading coal. Okay. We have more coal reserves than
I didn't
and we're
say
also
that.
the leader in clean coal technology.
I didn't say there is no such thing as clean coal. That's one of the biggest lies ever put forth. Why he continues to say that is beyond me.
Because, Frank,
there's no such thing as clean coal.
There is nothing. Well, guess what? There's no clean green energy. How many eagles do you want to kill by turbines? How many fish do you want to kill in the ocean with the turbines? Because that's what the turbines are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Trump put a stop to it. He made a decision. Mm-hmm. He thought it was a waste of time and money. He didn't need to hire any consultants to go tell him.
Really?
I think he analyzed it
one of Donald Trump's problems.
I think he looked at it and said,
how do you get, and wait a minute, how do you get,
trillions,
do you like our Secretary of State?
Trillions.
Do you like our Secretary of State?
I love him. I think he's doing a great job.
Okay, he recommended that the president not do it.
Well, Frank,
trillions of dollars.
He recommended that the president stay with the deal.
Didn't you just a minute ago when I mentioned the EPA panel say one of the solutions was to get people completely unconnected? Well, that's what the president just did.
I'm
he made
just
a decision.
asking you what is it you're arguing? Are you saying no matter what Donald Trump does,
I'm arguing
it's
that
good?
the private marketplace will figure this out better than government. Because the government has just as vested an interest as anyone else.
With all due respect, the assistance that was given the private marketplace over the last 15 years is what created.
You're right, and it's
progress.
all been green energy, and it's all been a bust.
You know,
that's
it's not all a bust, and in fact, we're winning the battle.
You can either be the person.
You can either lead on this issue, or you can
billions of dollars are lost.
Franklin, trillions of dollars are going to be lost over many years with very little return.
What do we get for the ethanol subsidies
we can do more on our own than we would.
Why are we doing ethanol
and save the
subsidies?
money and put the money
that
that we
save
back
isn't
into
very
school
green
systems.
either.
It was green. It's your people that pushed it down our throat. The ethanol subsidies were green energy, and it's cost us billions of dollars, and on top of that, it destroys the environment even worse, and it destroys our motors.
You can't even buy anything that
Here's what
runs
I
on
know.
gasoline hardly anymore.
All of the people at the top of the Trump administration that he picked thought it was a bad idea what he did, and you guys go, "Oh, well, Donald did it. It must be good."
Did the Accords in Paris allow China and India to increase or decrease their carbon footprint?
For a short period of time, an increase.
12 years, Franklin.
And what I also know
Wait a
is...
minute, wait a minute. Don't just breeze past that.
Who built more gas plants than anybody else last year?
Gas plants?
Natural gas plants. Who built more of them last year than anybody else?
Natural gas is clean burning.
Who built more of them, John? It's a simple question.
The Chinese, I guess you're going to say. They also built more coal plants.
That's true, John.
And they get to continue. Here's the
That's
point,
true,
Franklin.
John. But
We
they've
were
announced
required.
what their goals are, and their goals are to
Their goals were to
building
continue to
faster
build their
and faster
economy.
and faster.
One of the points of this, Franklin, was it would devastate our economy. We were actually required to reduce our carbon footprint, which for a modern society would devastate our economy. They were allowed for the next 12 years to increase their carbon footprint, and that's only if they abide by it, because they weren't required to abide by it.
Only 3 nations in the whole world didn't agree to this.
Franklin,
only 3.
Only a liberal
And you
Democrat
pulled
would
out of
agree.
it.
Only
And
a
you think
liberal
you're
Democrat
leading.
would agree to that kind of loser agreement, which is what this was. This was a kick America in the head. We were actually going to pay their bills while we crippled our
Go
economy.
tell all those folks in Bradley County working for Vocker how awful
Well,
the
I will
green
tell you
movement
that
has been.
if Vocker can make it without subsidies, I'm all for them. And I'm glad to have those jobs here, Franklin. But guess what? I don't think the government ought to be picking winners and losers in the economy.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Checking the cash, you got a brand new choice. Our flexible loans really making noise. Flex your money, my soul. Flex your money, my soul.
A check into cash flex loan puts you in control. Visit your nearest store for details.
Shape a flex loan to fit your needs. Make your next loan a flex loan and set yourself free. Flex your money muscle at checking the cash.
Some restrictions apply. See store for details.
Yeah.
This is Teresa Gilbert from the Village Bake Shop in Cleveland, Tennessee. Do you have a birthday, wedding, or anniversary coming up and want that perfect cake? Need some donuts to sweeten up your coworkers? Want to surprise your sweet thing with a bag of cookies? Then come on over to the Village Bake Shop. Family operated since 1961. The Village Bake Shop is your first and last stop for fresh baked goods that will feed your sweet tooth. The Village Bake Shop located at the Village Green Town Center. The phone number here is 423-476-5179. See you soon.
Are you unhappy with your current television service provider? Whether you're on cable or a direct TV satellite system, we'll call Tech Centric Installation. That's Dennis at Tech Centric Installation, 2398 Blue Springs Road, right here in Cleveland. He is now your local retailer for Dish Network. Why call another state or sign up from some telemarketer calling from who knows where when you can talk to someone right here in Cleveland, shake his hand, meet him, set an appointment, find out why his 15 years of experience will create the perfect package for you. Don't pay too much and don't have to pay more down the road. Dish Network right here in your backyard with packages starting at only $55 a month with HBO free for 12 months with a 2-year price lock. So if you want to get your new updated, great state-of-the-art television service package, get it right here from Dish Network now now with your own local person in Dennis Powell, or we call him Dish Dr. Dennis, at Tech Centric Installation, 2398 Blue Springs Road. Call him now, 834-9933. That's 834-9933. Ask for Triple D. That's Dish Dr. Dennis for your Dish Network home entertainment needs. 834-9933. Call Dennis at Tech Centric Installation. Financial Recovery, licensed and bonded collection agency, located right here in Cleveland, Tennessee. Give them a call at 423-473-7670. Small town service with big city results. A full service medical, commercial, retail, and individual collection service. Celebrating 10 years in business. Call Financial Recovery at 423-473-7670 to help you with your accounts receivable and past due invoices. Financial Recovery, 423-473-7670.
Why would you put up with a heating and cooling system that cycles on and off when you can have quiet, true comfort, variable speed by Train? It runs at low speeds with continuous little adjustments to keep your home comfortable and quiet. It's always been hard to stop a train. Now, it's hard to hear one.
When you want an unconventionally efficient heating and air unit that keeps your home right in the comfort zone, day in and day out, nothing will do but a Train. To get the best Train service, call your local Train comfort specialist. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. Keeping you comfortable is Mechanical Systems' only business, and they've been providing high-quality service and installation for more than 30 years. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. That's 336-5739.
It's hard to stop a train.
Matthews Pool and Spa Company, located in Cleveland, Bradley County for over 45 years. You know them. They're your new swimming pool construction and supply company in Cleveland, Tennessee, now with 4 generations of Matthews to serve you. Matthews Pool and Spa Company, for over 45 years, your swimming pool construction and supply company, spa or hot tub installation and maintenance. Get all of your supplies for your pool or spa right now. That's the new location in the old Quinn Electric Company building behind KFC at 2724 Keith Street in Cleveland. Call Matthews now, 476-4521. You better get your order in now for your new pool construction for this spring and summer. 476-4521. Matthews Pool and Spa Company. Gonna jump in. Woo!
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Whoop FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, I'm going to say something here that's getting pretty famous. Wow.
What?
Wow, Comey is a leaker.
Okay.
Well, I think Comey damaged himself more than I think he strengthened the president's case. I think he undercut the Democrats' case, and I think he damaged his record and he damaged his standing.
Okay.
I think things are probably getting better for Trump because the Democrats are talking about the Russians again.
No. You've got to follow the evolution here. First, it was collusion. Then it was obstruction of justice. All of that, it has gone away. The first 4 hours of the questioning of Attorney General Sessions yesterday, not a single Democrat asked a single question about collusion. That's what the whole thing was supposedly started about.
Well, that would also be in large part because
Comey
Sessions
said there was no collusion.
to answer those questions.
Because Comey said there was no collusion. Matter of fact, everybody has said there was no collusion. This whole thing was about collusion, Franklin, and not a single question from Democrats about collusion anymore.
It's not uncommon, John, for investigations to begin about one thing and end up finding something else.
But the problem is they found nothing. They're now on their third tact.
What I saw in the Comey testimony were forget Comey for a moment. Let's back up and talk about the Mike Rogers testimony and the Pompeo testimony, where they repeatedly said they couldn't answer a lot of the questions in an open session.
Because they work in national security issues.
And the questions that they couldn't answer included whether or not the president had asked them to try and stop an
Well, let me
investigation.
read a quote then, just to make sure you're hearing everything. NSA Director Admiral Michael Rogers, who was under President Obama and President Trump, quote, "I have never been directed to do anything I believe to be illegal, immoral, unethical, or inappropriate." That's a pretty open and shut statement, Franklin.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you brought him up. You brought Admiral Michael Rogers up. Explain that quote. Nothing.
We will explain it when the time comes, John.
Franklin, let me read that to you again. There's no...
Read it one more time.
I have never been directed to do anything I believe to be illegal, immoral, unethical, or inappropriate. You show me the wiggle room in that, Franklin.
Okay, John. We'll see.
Well, then why bring it back up?
Because there were multiple times in that testimony when they were asked
Because
specifically.
he's the NSA director.
No.
Well, let me give you a good example of what I think Franklin's doing. Here is a tweet from Jonathan Weissman. Now, Jonathan Weissman is the New York Times Washington editor. So he's listening to the Comey to Sessions yesterday.
Right.
And he tweets, large cap letters, Comey says Attorney General Sessions told him not to call Russia probe an investigation, but a matter. Led him to step away from the DOJ. Now, that's what he heard from Comey's conversation last Thursday in the hearings. The problem is, from Alex Griswold, who is from the Washington Times, tweeted back to him, Comey was actually talking about Loretta Lynch and the Clinton investigation. So the New York Times editor couldn't even he's so fixated on finding something wrong with Trump that he took an actual statement that Loretta Lynch and the Obama administration had actually tried to influence an investigation, and he attributed it to Trump.
What you forget, John.
What's a matter? What is a matter? From a legal,
My point is,
from a legal
he heard the statement,
perspective, what's
and
a
he
matter?
wanted it to be about Trump so bad that he actually wasn't even listening to who that Comey was talking about.
Franklin, from a legal perspective, what is a matter?
There's no difference between a matter and an investigation.
And that's why the name is the Federal Bureau of Matters. Federal Bureau of Matters.
You guys can do this all day long and reach over and pat yourselves on the back and say how good
I
job
tell you
you're
what,
doing.
next time you're in court and
and
you've got an FBI guy there, make sure you refer to him as the Federal Bureau of Matters.
Try something new and breathe for a moment and listen while you're doing it.
Well, actually,
But you
I
forget.
can't
No, I know. No, you're not doing it again. You're not breathing. Try again.
Investigation.
Try again.
All right,
Inhale.
All right, let me inhale.
It'll clear your ears while you're doing
Matter.
it, and I will actually talk for a moment.
You want me to tell you what matters?
Here we are on the John Stansberry Show where John talks and
you want me to tell you about matter?
Here we go.
Investigation.
Franklin, I'll tell you about matter.
Here we go. You guys
tell
forget that all of this started as an investigation into Russian attempts to try and meddle in our elections.
That we
and
hadn't
the
found
reason
any
there's an
evidence of.
obstruction investigation is because your people tried to shut it down.
I'm going to
Really?
tell you what.
Now,
No, wait a minute. Let me address that, Frank. I'm
no,
glad you
your
brought that up.
people, you own
I'm
them.
glad you brought
They're
that up
yours.
because let me read you. Now, this is from the Secretary of State of Connecticut, who is a Democrat, and she is also the president of the National Association of Secretaries of State. Now, this is what she said. We asked, and over again, they did not say there was a credible threat they had found, and they said right that through the election, and the next administration reiterated over and over again, when we asked, we were told there was no actual threat that they knew of. So the Obama administration never warned any of the secretaries of states that the Russians were trying to hack it, even though they knew it.
Except all the evidence that came out
She's
this
a
week
Democrat.
says just the opposite.
You're right, which makes them liars, and it also makes them unprepared because they knew it and didn't warn anybody.
And
Thank
like
you for pointing
always,
that out.
you are perfectly willing to cover over this stinking pile of
Obama's
crap.
the one that covered it over until your own leaker leaked it and actually made him out the liar.
It's pretty clear that the Obama administration took it pretty seriously and took serious
Well,
efforts
maybe you
to try
need
and
to
do
talk to
something
the
about it.
Democrat Secretary of State from Connecticut.
Because I'm really concerned about the Democratic Secretary of
She
State.
says
in
they
Connecticut,
never
John.
warned any of them.
While your party
Never warned
is in
any of them.
bed with
Never
the
warned
Russians
any of them.
and telling them what great people
No
they are.
collusion. No collusion at all. So there you go, making another statement. My party's in bed, but there's been zero evidence of any collusion.
If anybody
zero
believed
evidence.
what you said, John, you'd be jumping up and down
Zero
saying
evidence of
that we
any
need
collusion.
to investigate
You want me to
this.
read
The
the
fact
people?
that you don't want it investigated tells us exactly
my
what
point
we
is,
need
I don't
to know.
want to waste my time.
Because exactly what I've been saying.
Frankly,
For you, it's
who's
all party
investigating the
over
Russians?
country.
Who's
all party
investigating
over
the Russians?
country every week.
Who's investigating the Russians? Not your people, because you're too focused on Trump. There's no evidence. We know what the Russians did, and yesterday in the hearings, not a single Democrat asked a single question about Russian collusion. So your people are the ones that are. You're the people that are colluding. You're colluding for political purposes.
John, you're trying to shut down an investigation.
Former Director
into this.
Comey said no collusion.
You know darn well that
Acting
Mike Flynn's
FBI
going to get
Director
indicted.
Andrew McCabe, no collusion.
Mike Flynn's
NSA
going to get
Director
indicted.
Michael Rogers, no collusion. Director of National Intelligence Dan Coate, no collusion. Former CIA
Does
Director John
anybody
Brennan, no
who's
collusion.
breathing believe you'd be saying this?
Former
if a
DNI
Democratic
James Clapper,
National Security
no collusion.
Advisor
Senate
was
Judiciary ranking
going to be
Democrat
indicted
Dianne
like Mike Flynn's
Feinstein,
going to be.
no collusion.
Nobody believes that.
No, I just gave you a list of
Did
people
you
that
answer
said
my
no
question?
collusion.
Of course you didn't.
I didn't hear your question.
Do you think that the Democrats are trying to overthrow America's government?
Yes.
I hope not.
I think they are.
Well, Alan
They're
Dershowitz, liberal
I
Democrat,
hope
says
not,
they
because
are.
it's actually better for Democrats for this incompetent boob up there to continue to be president.
Incompetent boob?
Yes.
How did he get there being incompetent?
I can't find that he's particularly competent in anything in his entire life.
Well, I said the same thing about Obama, and you supported him.
I am simply asking,
Yeah, what
is
did
it
Obama-
Donald Trump
what
has
did
done
Obama do?
in his entire life that's actually admirable or really good?
All right, I'm going to tell you what he did. He got a cabinet that actually had jobs and worked for a living before he brought them into the government scene. Obama had less than 2%, I think, that ever had a job.
Let me read
out
you
of
what.
government.
Let me read you what liberal Democrat Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz wrote just this week. He said that this thing the Democrats are doing. Now he's a liberal Democrat, and he is not a Trump supporter in any way, shape, or form. But his quote was, "This is dangerous to civil liberties." Quote, "Show me the man, and I will show you the crime." That's out of the Russian government. Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime. That's Alan Dershowitz, Harvard law professor, liberal Democrat.
I love how John jumps on these liberals when he
No, I've
likes
always
them.
liked Dershowitz. I don't
Oh,
agree
yeah.
with him about a lot of issues, but he's a man of honor and principle. And that's what he's telling you. He's saying that the Democrats are a threat to civil liberties.
Okay.
I think they're trying to overthrow the government.
I think that this president is corrupt. Period.
What makes you think he's corrupt?
Because every
What?
single
Let me-
thing in his life has been corrupt.
Well, let me ask you a
What
question,
makes you
Franklin.
think he's corrupt? Tell me, really and truly, Franklin, what makes you think he's corrupt?
Oh, let's see. How about this past week when we discovered that his son, running the operation, had managed to bilk St. Jude's Hospital out of $1 million?
Bilk.
Yes.
Bilk 'em. How did he
Used
bilk
his
'em?
golf course to raise money for it, and then had the charities pay him $1.5 million for the privilege, which ended up with his golf course getting more money out of it than the charity got out of it. These people are criminals.
All right, what are the Clintons?
And the very
What are-
fact
wait a
that
minute,
you
wait a minute,
guys
wait a minute. You're letting
suppress your nausea
Wait a minute.
and
What
cheerlead
are
for
the
them
Clin-
is amazing.
Hey, wait a minute. What are the Clintons?
This is, you don't understand.
What are the Clintons?
I don't care if you go after the Clintons. If they do something wrong, prosecute them.
Well, then what?
But don't apologize for this incompetent idiot because of something you think the Clintons did.
I think
go after the Clintons.
Wait a minute.
You're in charge of the Justice Department. If they committed a crime, go prosecute them.
All right, Franklin.
Look at me. You're yelling at me.
No,
I want you
I'm
to hear
yelling
me.
at both of you because you guys will excuse
you to
anything
hear me.
he
I want you
does.
to-
You
I
mean
want you
like
to hear me.
Benghazi? You mean like
Yes.
gun running to
Go
the
do
Mexicans?
it.
You mean
You're in charge.
like the
If there's a
IRS
crime
scandal?
there, go do it.
Let me give you a good example. Wait a minute. I've got a good example for you right now. The new Attorney General, who you all are savaging, okay, just changed
The
a
new
major
Attorney General? Who's the new Attorney General?
Sessions.
Okay. We're savaging him.
Yes.
Okay.
They just raked him over the coals over nothing, over a cocktail party where he may or may not have brushed up against the Russian.
You forgot the other two.
We got a
movies,
caller
too.
on the line. Let's take a call real quick. Go ahead, caller. You still there? We lost him. All right, you can try us again. Anyway,
well, no, let me read something, see what Franklin thinks about this. The new Attorney General has just changed a policy. The previous administration, for example, they just got a settlement with Citibank and Bank of America that required them to, quote, donate $150 million to community development groups. Well, guess who the community development groups are? They're all liberal Democrat groups, such as Acorn. Acorn got the money. On top of that, the $150 million donation got the bank a $300 million credit against their judgment. Now, that's money basically that should have gone into the Treasury Department, but instead it went to private organizations, all of whom are Democrat-leaning and Democrat-supported. Our new supposedly corrupt administration has actually put a stop to that and said we will not allow money to be shunted into private groups with political connections. That money will go into the Treasury, and it will go to the victims of the actual crime that the banks are accused of committing. Now, Franklin, tell me how unethical that sounds. Tell me how the Obama administration making
Did you just
Bank of
throw
America,
something at me?
Yes, I did. Tell me how.
Well, you'll
the
have
Bank
to
of
pick
America,
up something bigger than a piece of paper.
The Bank of America donating money to Acorn, who then turned around and actually broke federal laws in illegally voting people for Democrats. Tell me how that's not corrupt at its core.
It could be.
It is. It could be. It
could
is.
be.
And the Attorney General,
guess what,
who you all
John?
are savaging, put a stop to that practice this week.
But guess what, John? I'm the person who rails against money in politics here, while you
should
apologize
be.
for
You
it.
should be,
And
because
no,
it's your
okay.
party that does it. It's your party that does it, so
hey,
thank you.
Franklin, let me ask you a question. Do you play golf?
Rarely.
Have you ever played in any golf tournaments?
Not since I was a teenager.
Well, what are golf tournaments usually for?
You mean that average people play in?
Yeah.
Frequently for charity.
For charity. Okay. So you're saying that Donald Trump's son did something wrong when St. Jude's hosted a golf tournament on one of their golf courses, and they had to pay for the carts and the green fees just like you would at any other golf course. And then Donald Trump's son probably got in there and helped them every way he could, making speeches, trying to bring money in. And St. Jude's made money. Did they make money?
That's not what happened.
Did they make money? Did St. Jude's make money? Did they make money from the golf tournament? How can you say that he's done something
Because you
wrong?
hate Trump.
Because
and
he's
you're looking for
he's
anything you
running
can look
down.
for.
That's not what happened, Steve.
Well, then, I mean, how did it?
Did they lose money or make money?
Did they make
Did
money?
they lose money or make money?
Here's
It's
the
called
Did they
here's
lose
the
money or
tax
make
dodge.
money?
You can't
Here's the
give it
tax
away.
dodge that they've done. They get people to donate to the Trump Foundation,
Okay.
purportedly for the benefit of these charities.
What is
and
Clinton?
then they take
What are
the money
Clinton's,
and
what's
keep
Clinton's
it themselves.
foundation getting money donated for?
In that case, St. Jude's.
You mean like Bank of America does a crime and they have to pay back the victims, but the money instead goes to Acorn through the federal government?
As I've pointed out here, John, and this is not sinking in for some reason, I actually am not excusing any misbehavior.
That's not misbehavior.
I'm telling.
That was the actual policy of the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, and the guy before her, the Fast and Furious guy.
What came out of Sessions yesterday? I mean, anything corrupt come up?
There's nothing corrupt.
What did he talk about yesterday? I didn't get to hear.
One, he talked about how insulted he was that people he worked with would accuse him of the things they accused him of with no evidence whatsoever. It was simply a smear job. And that's all this has
What
been
about
about.
the leaker, Comey?
Comey is a leaker and violated federal law in doing it, and he did it for political purposes.
Is anything going to happen to Comey?
I doubt it.
Why should?
Because it's not clear that he violated any law with that.
Because he wasn't working?
No, because it was his own memo documenting his own conversation.
Was it
memos that he had written in the course of official government duties about privileged conversation? He wrote it on government desk, on government time. It's a government record.
And it's on the
That
government
doesn't mean
iPad,
that it's a crime to leak it.
Well, 18
you
U.S.
think everything
Code
that government
641 provides it's a federal crime to, without authority, convey a record of the United States, in this case an FBI record. He admits under oath he leaked after being fired. And Franklin, all this talk, for example, the courts that have ruled against the travel ban, they've all talked about his intent based on things that Trump has said. What was Comey's intent in leaking that to the New York Times?
Well,
what was his intent?
making sure the president didn't lie.
No, it wasn't. He expressly said in his test. No, he didn't. Let me tell you what he said.
Yes, he did.
He expressly said, I did it in order to get a special counsel appointed. So he did it with a political intent in his heart.
Okay.
He's admitted that on record. That makes it a federal crime.
No, it doesn't, actually.
What do you think, Comey? Do you think he did a good job, bad job in everything he's done?
I don't know that it makes a difference what I think about that.
I'm just getting
What I think is that it's never a good thing for the country when an FBI director says, I was so concerned about whether this president would lie that I took an action.
Yeah, you know what, Franklin? That shows you his intent going into the meeting because he never did that with the previous
Well,
president.
what we know is that he kicked everybody out, that Trump kicked everybody else out of the room to have this private conversation.
So did Loretta Lynch on the plane when she met with Bill Clinton.
And what did Comey say about that?
What did he say?
He said that
it's a matter. He said it was a matter.
What did he do about it?
You're right. It was not an investigation. It became a matter.
Hang on, Steve. You're right, Franklin. And what did he do about that?
He
did what she told.
Excluded her from communication.
But he did what she asked, and he didn't report it to anybody.
Excluded her.
Did he report it to anybody? No. Until this week, he had not told anybody what she did. He said he knew it was inappropriate, but he did it anyway.
No, you're mixing things up here. We're talking about the meeting on the plane.
Okay.
We're talking
the meeting
about
on the plane, he said specifically was wrong, shouldn't have happened, and because of that, he excluded her
Franklin,
from deliberations that were going on.
How well does it help Comey's testimony when the night after he testifies, the Justice Department has to correct his statements because they're wrong and false? Let me read you what they corrected. In his testimony, this is a statement from the Justice Department. In his testimony, Mr. Comey stated that he was, quote, not aware of any kind of memorandum issued the Attorney General or the Department of Justice to the FBI outlining the parameters of the Attorney General's recusal. However, on March 2nd, the Attorney General's Chief of Staff sent the attached email specifically informing Comey and other relevant department officials of the recusal and its parameters and advising that each of them instruct their staff not to brief the Attorney General about or otherwise involve the Attorney General in any such matters described. How does James Comey forget that? How does he go before a House or a Senate committee, testify that the Attorney General didn't tell him anything, and he doesn't even remember his own...
As I have continued to point out, John, although it gets lost in all the noise in here, I'm not cheerleading for James Comey. No, I'm not missing any point. I'm not missing any point. Here's exactly what happens, John. As soon as something comes out, you start slamming the person the messengers, and excuse the conduct that started it.
All right,
I don't excuse anything James Comey's done.
You just earlier said that Sessions was wrong, and your people are all saying it's collusion because he may or may not have had a conversation at a cocktail party with over 1,000 people. Well, your Democrat buddies are.
First of all, you're misstating the facts. The facts are he had 2 meetings in his office and a third.
But Franklin, the one they're getting him on his testimony. Yes, it is.
John.
They're getting him on this cocktail party. But my point is, James Comey forgets an entire memo that went to him and his staff on such an important issue.
Hold Comey accountable.
We are. We're saying he's untrustworthy, and his testimony
hold everybody accountable, not just the Republicans you want to save. Hold everybody accountable.
All right, how much money...
Which part of that do you disagree with?
How much money did St. Jude's lose in that golf tournament?
I don't remember the exact amount now.
So, in other words, there shouldn't have been any charges for the golf course or the golf carts or any of the things utilized in promoting or raising this money. You're saying that he was a crook?
Here's the relevant question.
And that St. Jude's, he made more money than St. Jude's did.
Here's the relevant question. Had St. Jude's, Franklin, had that at another golf course owned by someone else, would you be saying a single word about it?
If they did the same shady
They do it all
trick.
the time. I can tell you, I've worked in a lot of charities that end up losing money on an event.
Tell me what the shady trick is.
The money didn't get donated to St. Jude's. It got donated to the Trump Foundation.
So the entry fees were made to the Trump Foundation?
I didn't say the entry fees.
Well, then that's where...
I'm just telling you that this was money that was supposedly going to go to benefit St. Jude's, and in fact, it went in payments to the Trump family.
So what he's saying is, when the Republican Party has,
and that's not the only example of them doing.
When the
that.
Bradley County Republican Party has our Lincoln Day dinner,
Right.
when we pay the food vendor, if we don't sell enough tickets and we lose money, the food vendor actually stole from us. That's what he's saying.
Dum da dum 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 da dum dum dum. It's time to go, folks. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop